Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Sevilla. I'm a librarian here at the Livermore Public Library. And right now, I would like to ask everyone to please put your mobile devices on silent or vibrate. Thank you. And happy almost Halloween, everybody. It's the funnest holiday of the year, in my opinion. And today, Encore Players, Livermore's community theater group, has put together a fun Halloween program for you all. And I want to thank Donna Blevins for directing today's program. Let's give Donna a round of applause. And all the wonderful Encore Players presenters you see before you. Let's give them all a round of applause. So, without further ado, let's start the show. Donna Blevins.
Why is Halloween so much fun? One answer is that it's the time of the year when you see friends, classmates, and coworkers dressed as pirates, or witches, or Tinkerbell. It's a good time of the year that you can be someone else. Dressing up makes you feel like a kid again. Wearing the costume gives you a chance to be someone other than yourself.
Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?
Well, that depends a great deal of where you want to get to.
I don't much care where.
Well, then it doesn't matter which way you go.
But I don't want to go among mad people.
Oh, you can't help that. We're all mad here. I'm mad. You're mad.
How do you know I'm mad?
Well, you must be, otherwise you wouldn't come around here. It's always tea time.
No room.
Well, there's plenty of room.
Have some wine.
Well, I don't see any wine.
There isn't any.
Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it.
It wasn't very civil of you to sit down without being invited.
Why is a raven like a writing desk?
Well, I haven't the slightest idea. I don't think.
Then you shouldn't talk.
Maybe you should say what you mean.
Well, I do. At least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know.
Oh, not the same thing a little bit. You might just as well say that I see what I eat is the same thing as I eat what I see.
You might as well say that I like what I get is the same thing as I get what I like.
You might just as well say that. I breathe what I sleep. It's the same thing as I sleep what I breathe.
Take some more tea.
I've had nothing yet, so I can't take more.
You mean you can't take less? It is very easy to take more than nothing.
Nobody asked your opinion.
Am I mad?
Yes, you're quite mad. Bonkers, off the top of your head. But I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are.
Why is a raven like a writing desk? Have you guessed the riddle yet?
No, I give it up. What's the answer?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Well, that was the silliest tea party I ever went to. I am never coming back there again.
If you think Halloween is uniquely an American tradition, grab a mini Snickers and settle in. The origins of Halloween go all the way back to Celtic times. It was a spiritual celebration after the harvest season ended. The Gaelic word meaning summer's end is pronounced Samhain in Ireland, Samhain in Wales, Samhain in Scotland, and pumpkin spice in America. Celebrants would light community bonfires and say prayers together. People would put food out. This was maybe the first trick or treat. Christian popes tried to take the holiday away by saying it was pagan. There was All Souls Day, November 2nd. All Saints Day or Hallows Eve, November 1st. So Halloween or All Hallows Eve became Halloween. Here's Leah and Ellie who will tell you more about traditions in Europe and Mexico.
Transylvania in Romania is an ideal place to spend Halloween. A medieval castle towers over the city. It was the birthplace of history's real-life Dracula, the tyrannical Vlad the Impaler, and was the inspiration for Bram Stoker's 1893 novel, Dracula. The castle hosts an annual Halloween party for 1,000 guests with food, music, costumes, and tours of the dark tunnels. But beware, when guests arrive, Dracula tells them, "You may go anywhere you wish in the castle, except where the doors are locked, where of course you will not wish to go." In Poland, there is Baba Yaga. Just hearing the name scares children. The wild old woman, the mistress of magic, a mythical creature, a trickster, and a forest spirit. She is a witch and a feminist who can be good or evil depending on the situation. She teaches children reverence for the delicacy of nature and the spirit world. Baba Yaga symbolizes the unpredictable and untamable nature of the female spirit, or Mother Earth, and the relationship of women to the wild. She is a reminder that freedom lies a little beyond the border of social norms, and that we can learn as much from the dark as the light. Another Polish tradition is Jolly. The belief that during October and November, spirits return to the world of the living, making it possible to honor your ancestors. Families buy flowers and candles to visit the cemetery. By nighttime, the graves are decorated, making it beautiful and peaceful to visit. If you are thinking this sounds like Mexico's Day of the Dead, you are right. Here's Ellie.
In Mexico, Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is not a Mexican Halloween. Though related, the two annual events differ greatly in traditions and in tone. Whereas Halloween embraces terror and mischief, on the last night of October, Day of the Dead festivities unfold over the first 2 days of November in an explosion of color and joy. The centerpiece of the celebration is an altar, or an ofrenda. These aren't altars for worship, but rather they're meant to welcome spirits back to the realm of the living. They're loaded with offerings, water to quench the thirst after a long journey, food, family photos, a candle for each of our deceased loved ones, and marigolds, or cempasúchil, are the main flowers used to decorate the altar. The smoke from copal, incense, made from tree resin, transmits praise and prayers and purifies the area of the altar. Day of the Dead is an extremely social holiday that spills onto the streets of all hours of the day. Dressing up as skeletons is part of the fun. People of all ages paint their faces artfully as they dress in fancy outfits. Many wear shells and other noisemakers to amp the excitement, and also possibly to rouse the dead and keep them close during the fun. So I actually wrote a poem about Dia de los Muertos, and it's called The Ofrenda, or The Altar. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the movie Coco, but there's a song in there called El latido de mi corazón, and there's a line in there that says, Parece que anoche te encontré en mis sueños, which translates to last night I saw you in my dreams. So, as I start the poem, last night I saw you in my dreams. We held hands as laughter escaped our mouths into the dulce cantadito between universos. We did not grieve the lost times. Instead, we picked up where we left off. We broke bread. Te conté todas las historias que había pasado en tu ausencia. y brindamos las noches donde podamos encontrarnos una vez más. Parece que anoche te encontré en mis sueños, and now I can't wait to fall asleep. And now we have Michelle and Joyce who will share some fun Halloween trivia.
Hey, we've got questions, quizzes.
We need answers. Recommend you little ones there.
Are we gonna get the candy? There might be candy. Okay, anyone know where the first citywide Halloween celebration took place in the United States? Nobody knows? Well, I didn't know.
I don't either.
It's a town called Anoka, Minnesota. It calls itself the Halloween capital of the world. Festivities started in 1920 with parades, a bonfire, bags of popcorn, candy, and peanuts, all given away to children. The celebration has continued every year except for 42 and 43 when we did have a rather large war.
So, does anybody know who was the first lady to decorate the White House for Halloween? Nobody knows? Close.
Good guess.
Mamie Eisenhower in 1958, right? Trick-or-treating skyrocketed in popularity by the 1950s, and Halloween became a true national event.
And what has been the most popular Halloween costume in the United States? What's your guess? That's a very good guess. Candy.
Chicken candy.
But this year,
Right.
there's a new costume that's the most popular. Yes, in the back. It's a good guess. Hermione? Oh, Hermione. Yes, it is. Kyra's a good guess. Elsa's a good guess. This year, the costume might be pink. Pink, yeah. And who else were my guessers here, right here?
No, it's Ken.
It's Ken. All right. Who was my guesser back here? You guess.
All right. So here we go. Does anybody have any idea what's the most popular Halloween candy?
All kinds of guesses.
Wow, right off the top. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good guess.
She got it. I saw her. Something else. This right here. This is it.
That's the most popular Hollywood candy, but what's the most popular Hollywood candy in California? What do you think? Those are good, but no. Sorry. Yeah? No? Anybody else want to guess? One of my favorites, but no. Couple more guesses.
What did you say?
Oh, we got one. We got a winner over here. M&M.
All right, and this is just for everyone because we're probably going to get a 50-50 answer. Is a pumpkin a fruit or a vegetable? You're just going to shout it out. Fruit. Vegetable. Pumpkins are actually a fruit. It comes from the Greek word pepon, a large melon. And here's Marty to tell us more about the jack-o'-lantern.
There's no more classic Halloween image than a glowing jack-o'-lantern. Picture this. It's dark out. The wind blows through the branches, bringing a chill that isn't due to the temperature. Suddenly, you find yourself aware of every sound around you, and you jump as you realize you see a pair of eyes glowing at you, until you realize it's a jack-o'-lantern. Happy Halloween! to know the origins of the jack-o'-lantern, we have to go all the way back to the wetlands of Ireland. In the early 1600s, the legend of a shadowy figure began to arise known as Stingy Jack, an unsavory fellow often said to be a blacksmith who had a fondness for mischief and liquor. According to the story, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. True to his name, Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for his drink, so he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy their drinks. Once the devil did so, Jack decided to keep the money and put it in his pocket next to a silver cross, which prevented the devil from changing back into his original form. Eventually, time caught up with Jack and he was unable to trick the devil anymore. Stingy Jack was sentenced to roam the earth for all eternity with nothing but an ember given to him by the devil to light his way. This story also helped to explain a natural phenomenon called ignis fatuus, a natural phenomenon that occurs in the marshlands, such as those in Ireland's countryside, producing flickering lights as gases from decomposing organic matter compost. Also known as fool's fire, fairy lights, or will-o'-the-wisp, it often seemed like a floating flame that would move away from travelers. People thought it was Jack of the Lantern, a lost soul or a ghost. Now, of course, jack-o'-lanterns symbolize a welcoming sense of community, and they let us know which houses are open for trick-or-treating. They create a warm glow. And if you want to make a jack-o'-lantern, the best place to go, of course, to find the perfect pumpkin would be a pumpkin patch. So now Joyce will read us one of the most famous stories about a pumpkin patch.
I am going to read the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. Are the children familiar with that story? Oh, they got one there. Okay, if not, you're going to find out all about it right now. Okay. Every fall, the leaves on the trees turn brown and they fall off the branches. Pumpkins grow big and plump in all their patches. The air grows cooler, and people start to think about Halloween costumes, right? And every fall, Linus writes a very, very important letter. Okay. Dear Great Pumpkin, Linus writes, I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night. I hope you bring me lots of presents. Who are you writing to? Asked Charlie Brown. Well, the Great Pumpkin, Linus says. On Halloween night, the Great Pumpkin, he rises out of the pumpkin patch. And he flies through the air with his big bag of toys for all the children. Kind of sounds like Santa Claus, huh? I think he's mixed up a little bit. Linus' sister Lucy isn't happy that Linus is writing to the Great Pumpkin. You know that? You'll make me the laughing stock of the neighborhood, she complains. For Charlie Brown's sister Sally, she doesn't think Linus is crazy at all. She thinks Linus is wonderful. He's her sweet daddy. Wouldn't you like to sit with me in the pumpkin patch on Halloween night and wait for the Great Pumpkin? Linus asks. Sally is thrilled. Oh, I would love to, tells Linus. So, later that day, Charlie Brown has a surprise waiting for him in the mailbox. I got an invitation to a Halloween party. He exclaimed, he's so happy. Lucy thinks, that invitation must have been a mistake. There's 2 lists. She tells Charlie Brown, one to invite and one to not invite. Charlie Brown knows which he probably is the one he's on, but he decides to go to the party anyway. On Halloween night, everyone is planning to go to the party. Except who? Linus. My blockhead brother will be at the pumpkin patch making a yearly fool of himself, Lucy grumbles. She can't understand why Linus would choose to miss out on all the fun Halloween has to offer by sitting around in a pumpkin patch. Like me, everyone puts on the costumes, like me. Lucy is dressed as a witch. Charlie Brown is dressed as a ghost. But no one can tell who he's supposed to be because he had trouble with the scissors. You can tell. Sally is also dressed as a ghost, and so is Schroeder. They figured out how to use the scissors just fine. Pigpen is also dressed as a ghost too. Everyone can tell which ghost he is because a cloud of dust surrounds him. Oh. Snoopy walks by, also dressed in a costume. Well, who in the world is that? Asked Lucy. He's a World War I flying ace. Charlie Brown just saying, oh, now I've seen everything. Lucy declares that everyone will go trick-or-treating first and then go to the Halloween party. As they pass by the pumpkin patch, Linus sees them. I get so excited, thinking they come to wait with him. Have you come to sing pumpkin carols with me? You ever heard pumpkin carols? You blockhead! Lucy yelled at her brother. You're letting us all fun, just like last year. Don't talk like that, Linus cried. The great pumpkin will come because I am the most sincere pumpkin patch. Oh, good grief. And Lucy explained. She marches off with her friends. It looks like no one wants to join Linus in the pumpkin patch to wait for the great pumpkin. Except, what about Sally? What about Sally? Sally is torn. She doesn't want to miss out on all the fun or trick-or-treating and the party. But Linus is a sweet babu. Oh, what should I do? What should I do? Sally runs back to the pumpkin patch. I am so glad you're back, Linus says. You'll see that great pumpkin. You'll be able to see with your very own eyes. Linus is positive that the great pumpkin will pick his patch. Well, why wouldn't he pick his patch? The great pumpkin chooses the most sincere patch to visit every single year. And how could a pumpkin patch be more sincere than this one? Sally sure hopes Linus is right. Whoa. Meanwhile, the rest of the kids all go trick-or-treating. Tricks or treat, honey or eat. They yell at the first door. Everyone compares what they got. I got 5 pieces of candy. I got a chocolate bar. I got a quarter, Violet says. I got a rock. Says Charlie Brown sadly. And that happens at every single door. Wow, we got a lot of rocks, don't they? You know. All the other kids get wonderful treats like candy and gum and popcorn balls. And Charlie Brown gets rocks. No fun at all. Okay. Lucy decides that they have done enough trick-or-treating, and now it's time to go to the party. After all, everyone has a big bag full to the brim with treats. Everyone except Charlie Brown, of course. He's got a bag full of what? Rocks. Oh, poor baby. Yeah. On the way to the party, they pass by the pumpkin patch again. The kids laugh at Linus and Sally for waiting there instead of coming to the party. The great pumpkin will be here, Sally yells, defending Linus. After the kids walk by, Sally turns to Linus. All right, where is he? Where is he? She asks. He'll be here, don't worry, he'll be here. I sure hope so, Sally says. Think of all the fun we're missing at the party. So, and the Halloween party is a lot of fun for everyone except Charlie Brown. At first, Charlie Brown thinks his night's looking up when all the other kids ask him to be a model for the jack-o'-lantern. That sounds like a great honor. But then he realizes that being a model means having Violet draw a big pumpkin face on the back of his head. How fun is that not, right? Meanwhile, in the pumpkin patch, Sally is growing so tired of waiting for the great pumpkin. If anyone had told me I'd be waiting in a pumpkin patch on Halloween night, I would have said they were crazy, she complained. Just then, she and Linus hears a rumbling noise. Oh my goodness, what could it be? They see a shadow emerging from the pumpkin patch. What do you think? Could it be the great pumpkin? No. We're sure hoping so. It's the great pumpkin rising out of the pumpkin patch, yells Linus. He's so excited to see the great pumpkin, he faints. Waited all that time and then he faints. The next day, are you sure? There's a page here. Okay. But it isn't the great pumpkin after all. It's just the World War I flying ace on his way back from a very, very important mission. Linus finally wakes up and asks Sally, well, what happened? I was robbed, says Sally. Halloween's over and I missed it. He stomped out of the pumpkin patch, leaving Linus there all there by himself to wait for the great pumpkin. Well, Linus falls asleep. He starts snoring. And later that night, Lucy comes to bring him in and tuck him into his warm bed. So the next day, Charlie Brown tries to make Linus feel a little bit better. Don't take it too hard that the great pumpkin didn't show up, he tells his friend. But Linus doesn't feel let down. He says, you just wait until next year, he tells Charlie Brown. I'll find the most sincere pumpkin patch and I'll sit in that pumpkin patch until the great pumpkin appears.
So who has heard of Frankenstein? So Frankenstein was written by Mary Shelley in 1818, and it tells the story of Victor Frankenstein. Yes, Frankenstein had a first name. It was Victor. He was a Swiss student of science, and he created an artificial man from pieces of corpses. And he brought the creature to life. Here's Michelle to tell you more about Frankenstein.
Let's start with the name. As it's been introduced, Frankenstein, right? Do you think of a huge, scary monster? An 8-foot-tall monster? Well, let me assure you, you're thinking of the fictional creature in Mary Shelley's book, who actually is never given a name. Victor Frankenstein is the scientist that creates the creature. And in the book, at the time of the monster's creation, the scientist has driven himself sickly with the energy and the concentration to create his creature. He's thin from lack of eating, and he's very wild from lack of sleep. And this is pretty close to what we see when we see him in the movies, right? Kind of the mad scientist with the wild hair, driven, obsessed. Frankenstein's monster shows up in several different movies, American and foreign. And what traits do you think of when you imagine Frankenstein's monster? You guys could just, is he yellow? Is he white? Green? Is he tiny? Big? Big? Humongous. Does he wear big boots?
Yeah.
Yeah? So this all came about due to a play many years after Mary Shelley's book was written. In the beginning, after her book became popular, there were many plays. And in those plays, the creature was actually more true to the book, which was a very supple creature, a creature that had been created for beauty. He had long, dark locks, and he could move incredibly fast. And he actually trained himself to speak in French by listening to a family, and gets 5 chapters of the book to expose upon what he's experienced and to talk to his creator. But then we had a little known play adaptation happen. It kind of died out. There wasn't too many plays about Frankenstein. And then 1927, this play happens, and it's called Frankenstein, An Adventure in the Macabre. In there, we have deviations from the original story. Now, the nameless creature is called Frankenstein. And the creature is now strangely colored and disfigured by scars and sloppy stitching. Can't move very well. But in the book, Frankenstein the scientist has spent many years studying the natural sciences. And the reanimation of the creature appears on a black, rainy night, but no electrical storm. The whole scene of the lightning storm, very dramatic, came to us from the movies after 1927. But there is a relation, because Mary Shelley was a woman who had been homeschooled and became a lifelong learner. And she had learned about a science going around at the time called galvanism, where a scientist had found that if you touched dead frogs with a rod, their legs would twitch. And the scientist, Galvani, said, I found it, I found the secret to life. Later on, another scientist, Volta, learned of the experiment. He said, maybe, but I think it has to do with the two metals being used. There's a metal that the frog's hanging on and another metal. And he discovered it was caused by a chemical reaction, continued on the work of his discovery, and that is why we now have the battery. Link between Frankenstein's creature and the battery that all of us depend upon. Thank you. Oh, yes. So another character that came to us from Frankenstein, we're pretty sure, happened on a TV show called The Addams Family. There was a character named Lurch, very tall. He was gloomy. He carried a feather duster. And he would suddenly appear anytime somebody rang the bell. You rang? And here to talk more about the Addams Family song is our musical interlude.
Hi. You guys have been very, very patient, and we are going to introduce some great music for you. How many of you have seen on TV the Addams Family? Good, okay. We're going to introduce some songs. We're going to need you to help us. And so we're first going to do the lyrics, okay? And if you don't know the lyrics, then you do know the Addams Family, the last line of each verse. Okay, so we'll start with that, okay? We'll start with okay, here we go. They're creepy and they're spooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together spooky. The Addams Family. They're lost in some museum when people come to see them. They always are a scream. The Addams Family. So get your witches shawl on, a boomstick you can crawl on. We're gonna make a call on the Addams Family. Yeah, okay, got it. We're going to need snappers, right? Because the intro, when we do the intro, we're going to be doing, oh wait, how do I do this? I forgot. Okay, so we need snappers. So those of you who can snap, if you can, I have something else for you to do. Okay, ready? We're going to do. They're really good. Okay, but let's say you can't snap, okay? And I'm going to we're going to have some helpers snap. 1, 2, oh, yeah. And I think it's kids that can't snap, right?
I can snap.
You can snap. like to do this one?
Got a frog over there.
Okay, frog over here.
I'll take one of the rest.
Do you want to do it? You don't have to. Okay. Someone on this side? Okay. So we're going to practice now. Snappers and non-snappers. Okay, ready? Now we need to hear the non-snappers a little louder, okay? The snappers are beating you out on this. And then, the Addams family, we just can't leave that alone. So we're going to do the Addams family. Okay? Just kind of let an adult do it because they're kind of hard. Who would like to do the, I got two of them. Okay, you got your hand up first. This one's hard, honey. Okay, we got one. Okay, now we're going to practice that. But before we do that, we have the interlude. So there's first verse, second verse, interlude, which we're going to do right now, and the third verse, okay? So the interlude goes like this. This is where we're going to have, now we're going to add like words to the interlude, okay? So it's going to go, me. Okay, what? I'm not doing it. You do that. I can't do kazoo and talk at the same time. Okay. All right, now we're going to add neat, sweet, and petite. Okay, so when you see the sign go up, everyone say sweet. Everyone say neat, whatever the sign is, okay? So let's try it. Ready?
Can you say it with them?
Yes, I will. That's why I'm not doing kazoo. Okay, ready? Sweet.
Sweet. Petite.
That's it. Okay. Now we're going to do the whole thing together. You guys are fantastic. You follow directions wonderfully. So let's go ahead and do it. You're on the kazoo on your own. Yeah. This is the introduction. Da, 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 da.
Oh,
Yeah, we're doing this is the intro. Okay, ready? No signs on the intro. Okay, ready? Da, 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 da. Okay, let's do the first verse.
second first verse again?
Let's do the first verse.
First verse.
They're creepy and they're spooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together, spooky, the Addams family. Now, beep, 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 beep. Okay, go. The house is a museum when people come to see ya. They really are the Addams family. There you go. Snap, snap. Let's do it again. Now we're adding the words. Neat.
Petite. Petite.
Last verse. Just call on a bird to do. Call on, gonna make call on the Addams family. Again. So get your wish. Call on a bird to do. Call on, gonna make call on the Addams family. You guys did great. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go from this to some very dark tales by Bill. And I forgot, it's Telltale Heart.
This is one of Edgar Allan Poe's creations, The Telltale Heart. Shortened a bit so that you stay awake. But why do you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not dulled them. Above all was my acute sense of hearing. I heard all things in the heaven and on earth. Oh, it's impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once there, it haunted me day and night. The old man had never wronged me. I think it was his eye, which resembled that of a vulture, pale blue with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. So gradually I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself forever of the eye. Ah, you fancy me mad, but you should have seen me, seen how wisely I proceeded. I never was kinder to the old man than during the week before I killed him. Every night, exactly midnight, with my darkened lantern, I quietly opened his bedroom door, so quietly and stealthily, and opened the lantern just enough to shine a thin beam of light on the vulture eye. But during each night during the week, I found the eye closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. You see, the Duke would have had no reason to suspect that every night just at 12 I looked in on him while he slept. Well, upon the 8th night, I was more than usually curious and cautious in opening the door. Watch's minute hand moves more slowly than did mine. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the fastening and the old man sprang up in bed crying, "Who's there?" I kept very quiet in the dark for a long time. I could hear his breathing. Remember, I told you how acute my hearing is, as he seemed to become ever more frightened. After I had waited a long time very patiently without hearing him lie down, I opened a tiny slit in the lantern, a single dim ray which shot out from the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, a dull blue with a hideous veil over that chilled the very marrow of my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct precisely upon the down spot. Now I say there came to my ears a low, dull sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. Ah, thought I, it is the beating of the old man's heart, and it increased my fury. Yet I refrained and kept still and kept the lantern's ray upon the eye, and the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and louder every instant. Oh, the old man's terror must have been extreme. So loud it seemed that I thought surely the neighbors will hear, so loud that I myself felt terror from this new anxiety. The old man's hour had come. I opened the lantern wide and with a loud yell leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant I put a pillow over his head and held it there. Soon the sound of his heart grew dim, and I smiled gaily to find the deed done. I examined the corpse. Yes, he was dead, stone dead. I placed my hand upon his heart and held it there for many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was indeed dead. His eye would trouble me no more. And if you still think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe how I concealed the body. First, I dismembered it in the tub, cutting off the head, the arms, the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the cellar and deposited all beneath them, replacing the planks so cleverly that no eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. Well, it was 4 a.m. by then, still dark outside, yet there came a knocking at the front door. I opened it with a light heart, for what did I fear to fear? 3 men introduced themselves as officers of the police, here to search the premises. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor who called to report it. Oh, the shriek was my own in a dream, said I. The old man, I mentioned, was away in the country. I smiled, and what had I to fear? And bade them welcome. I took them through the entire house, urged them to search well, and at length led them to the cellar. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their neighbors, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my triumph, placed my own chair upon the very spot beneath which reposed the bones of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. We chatted cheerily, but ere long I felt myself going pale and wished them to leave. My head ached, my ears pulsed, but still they sat and chatted. This thumping in my ears became more distinct, louder. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued until at length I found that the noise was not in my ears. I talked more and louder, yet the sound increased. What could I do? There was a low, dull, quick sound, much as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, but the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly. The noise increased. I arose and argued about trifles loudly, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? What could I do? I raved, I dragged my chair across the planks, but the noise arose over all and continually increased, louder, louder, louder. Was it possible the men heard not? Oh, Almighty God, oh no, they heard, they suspected, they knew, and yet they sat there chatting and smiling. They were making a mockery of my horror. Anything was better than this derision, this agony. I could bear the hypocritical smiles no longer. The pounding, pulsing sound louder, louder, louder. Stop, I shrieked. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here. It is the beating of his hideous heart. Now I ask you people, was it really his heart? On a lighter note, here come Brer and Pat to tell you about jokes and poems.
We're having a Halloween party at school. I'm dressed up like Dracula. I'm really cool.
I dyed my hair red, cut off my bangs. I'm wearing a cape and some fake plastic fangs.
I put some makeup on to paint my face white, like creatures that only come out in the night.
My fingernails, too, are all painted in red. I look like I'm recently back from the dead.
My mom drops me off and I run into school and suddenly I feel like the world's biggest fool.
The other kids stare like I'm some kind of freak. The Halloween party is not till next week.
Okay, now I have a thinking question. October has 31 days, but some months have 30. How many months have 28 days? Oh. Okay, everybody said all.
That's a clever one.
Who else said all? Okay,
There's a bunch of people that said it.
Everyone has 28 days.
That's been
And I have an even harder question. Imagine that there's a boogeyman under your bed. Ooh, and he's coming to get you. What would you do?
You've got an answer right in front of you.
give up. I have the answer. Barney, oh, what do you have to say? Well, then you'd still be afraid, right? The boogeyman was going to get you because you were imagining it. So what do? You stop imagining.
You're still in the process.
Okay, and Marcia is here with a story by David Rubar called Busting Pumpkins.
For some of the younger members of the audience, who knows what fiction means? What does fiction mean? Yes, it means pretend. Okay. So if you get scared, just remember we're pretending. Excellent. Albert Gorefish loved to smash things. It didn't matter if it was his own thing that got smashed or somebody else's. If he could hurl it to the ground and watch it shatter into pieces, he was happy. His friends didn't share that feeling. Actually, his friends drifted off or fled one by one until only Stan Womble was left. Stan was a follower. He had no thoughts of his own, so he was happy to do whatever Albert did. Albert also hated holidays. 2 weeks before Halloween, as they were walking through their neighborhood, Albert grabbed Stan's arm with one hand and pointed across the street with another. And he said, "Pumpkins!" Stan followed the path of the pointing finger and saw a single pumpkin on the porch. There was a lopsided grin on its face. So, "I'll bet they're great to smash," Albert said. His own lopsided grin matched that of the pumpkin. "I'll bet they are too," Stan said. Albert's smile grew bigger as he pictured the sight and sound of the pumpkin being hurled to the hard concrete of the sidewalk. "Are we going to smash it now?" Stan asked. He took a step towards the porch. "Oh, yeah," Albert said. Then a thought stopped him in his tracks. "No, wait, that's the Fuller's house. They always decorate early. They had their Christmas lights up last year in November, and they had stuff for St. Patrick's Day by the middle of February." "But why wait?" Stan asked. "Because there are a lot more pumpkins coming. If I smash this one, everybody will be watching for it to happen again." Albert was an expert on how not to get caught, mostly because he'd been caught so many times. "If we wait until the night before Halloween, we can smash every pumpkin in the neighborhood. It will be amazing." Yeah. Stan's mouth hung open while he tried to absorb the idea of smashing endless pumpkins. Let's wait. And so, they waited. As Halloween grew closer, more and more pumpkins appeared on the porches and front walkways. There were tiny ones and giant ones. There were amazing works of art and crude carvings. Albert trembled with anticipation as he imagined smashing each and every one. He'd chuck the small ones like baseballs. He'd lift the huge ones with Stan's help. They'd smash everything in one glorious path of destruction. He could hardly wait. The night before Halloween, Albert met Stan at the end of their block. "Shh," Albert said, raising a finger to his lips. Stan nodded. And then, unnecessarily, he lifted a finger to his own lips and returned the shh. They crept up to the first porch. "Your time has come," Albert whispered. He and Stan each grabbed one of the 2 pumpkins sitting there. They crept to the street, exchanged glances, nodded, and flung their pumpkins to the road. The pumpkins smashed gloriously. Albert almost let out a whoop of joy. He'd been waiting so long for this moment, he couldn't believe it was finally here. The 2 of them reached the next porch, and the next. They worked their way down the street, smashing every pumpkin. They left a trail of broken pieces behind them. They moved down the street. So did the broken pieces. Tendrils of fiber reached out like tentacles, dragging the shattered pieces down the street. Tiny fragments, large hunks, and everything between slid along the road, following the boys and pulling together. As Albert and Stan reached the last house and smashed the last pumpkin, they found themselves facing 2 towering patchwork pumpkins. Each had a pair of gaping holes the size of manhole covers for eyes. Each had a grin that grew wider now that their time had come. Albert craned his neck back, trying to see the top of them. So did Stan. The giant pumpkins rotated so their eyes faced each other. The pumpkins tilted forward, as if nodding in agreement. Then they rotated back to face their victims, and they leaped straight up in the air. They came down on Albert and Stan, smashing the pumpkin smashers. A lot of damage was done. Albert had 17 broken bones. Stan had 12. Neither was in any shape to smash anything for quite a while. And when next Halloween rolled around, they had both decided it was best not to go outside at all. And now, Judy will read us a story about a boy who wants to dress up like a hero.
How to be a hero. My heroes are right here, because I have 3 of my family with me. If you're with some of your family, look, that is you. Once upon a time, he lived in a nice house, and he had nice parents and lots of toys. There, that's enough for anyone. Well, it wasn't enough for Gideon. Gideon wasn't satisfied. He wanted to be a hero. You know, a hero with his name on the front page of the newspaper. That sort of thing. So how does anyone get to be a hero anyway? He wondered. You have to be strong. You have to be brave. You have to be clever, don't you? For instance, that one about the princess in prison in the tower, and she has a weird name like Rapunzel or something like that, and very long hair, and this guy sees her and says, "Let down your hair," and she does, and he climbs up her hair. And she does, and he climbs up her hair and rescues her, so he's a hero.
and the story where a witch gives a girl a poison apple, and when she takes a bite, she goes to a deep sleep, which is sort of like being dead, but not really, and nothing would get her awake except a kiss. And someone does sees her sleeping there, and he kisses her, and he's a hero, just like that. Ooh. And Gillian thought about the one where someone has a mean stepmother and a mean stepsisters, and they make her dust and sweep and scrub so she never gets to go to parties. But a fairy godmother gives her a party dress and glass slippers. Ooh, let me choose. And she goes to the big party and she loses one and her glass slippers, and this guy finds it and gives it to her, and that makes him a hero. And just because he found that slipper, easy to be a hero. He noticed that some of them got to be heroes just by kissing someone. Gillian didn't much like kissing, but he probably would do it if he could get to be a hero that way. Once the babysitter fell asleep watching television, and he wondered if that would count if he kissed her. But he didn't think so, and he didn't do it. One of his favorite stories was the one about this kid finding some seeds or beans or something like that. And they grow up to be a great big vine, and he climbs up and finds some neat things. There's a giant up there, but he's asleep. So the kid takes home all the good stuff, and he's a hero, and he doesn't have to kiss anybody. Gillian thought about how all those guys turned out to be heroes, and he decided they hadn't really had to do anything or be anything. They didn't have to be strong. They didn't have to be brave. They didn't have to be clever. They just had to be in the right place at the right time. That's how you get to be a hero. You have to be at the right place at the right time. And you had to pay attention. You had to pay attention. That's just like at school. You had to keep your eyes open, or you wouldn't see someone who was sleeping, or someone with unusually long hair, or you wouldn't see any glass slippers, or any beans or seeds or anything. So Gideon paid attention, and he kept his eyes open. He kept his eyes open, and that is how he saw his big supermarket. Seeing the supermarket reminded him that he wanted a candy bar. His nice parents had just given him his allowance, so he had enough money. See what's going to happen next. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen next? Ooh. Gideon picked out his candy bar and waited patiently in line behind several other customers. He noticed there were balloons and flowers and cakes as he paid for his candy. People suddenly surrounded him, taking pictures, clapping him on the back. Oh, and congratulating him. see the picture? Can you see what's going on? Ooh, Gillian was the 1,000th customer to buy something at the supermarket. Everybody was excited. People patted him on the back. A girl kissed him on the cheek. For a minute, he wondered whether that might turn him into a prince or maybe a frog, but nothing happened. The manager said he could come in for a candy bar anytime he felt like having one. His name was on the front page of the newspaper. His picture was on the front page. He was a hero, and all because he had managed to be at the right place at the right time. Good. The end.
So now we're going to end our program with a poem by Shel Silverstein called Haunted. I dare you all to go into the haunted house on Howling Hill,
Where squiggly things with yellow eyes peek past the wormy windowsill.
We'll creep into the moonlit yard where weeds reach out like fingers.
And through the rotted old front door squeaking on its hinges,
Down the dark and whispering hall, past the musty study,
up the winding staircase. Don't step on that step, that's bloody!
And through the secret panel to the bedroom where we'll slide in.
And to the righted, cobweb, dusty bed, 10 people must have died.
And the bats will screech, and the spirits will scream.
The thunder will crash like a horrible dream.
And we'll sing with the zombies and dance with the dead.
And howl at the ghost with the axe in his head.
And come to think
Think
of
of
it,
it,
what did you say?
We go
We go get some ice cream instead. Up here, we have candy back there. So, oh yay, thank you. So help yourself to some candy and happy holidays.
I